when the best player in the world goes down with injury, there's going to be fantasy impact, and that's why you're tapped right back into your daily source for fantasy hockey news, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, Hump Day edition, breaking down what's in store for these Edmonton Oilers as well as what's going on with these Colorado Avalanche. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yesterday's episode, we took a look into the Eastern Conference Showcase. Wednesday, we're diving deep into the West, and that's why you're tapped into the Wednesday edition of your daily source for fantasy hockey news, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. On this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. You know what it is, everybody. Thank you so much. We got to show the love to everybody making this show possible, the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Start the season big with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 wager and get started with 150 bones in bonus bets if that wager wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Mr. Roden, when Connor McDavid gets hurt, when he breaks a nail, when something happens, we got to talk about it. And we're going to maybe speculate a little bit about what we think is going to happen with this. Goes down pretty bad against the Columbus Blue Jackets and then the Oilers even more so. Let's talk about that off the jump. But Ross Colton, the latest guy down for the Colorado Avalanche. I've got a couple of takes here for this one, and I'm a little bit concerned when I look at this Colorado Avalanche lineup. So I don't know if you need to rein me in a little bit, but we'll talk about that. Wednesday, 6-game betting board. We're trying to bounce back in a very big way from that Edmonton debacle the other night.
Yeah.
But I got a good feeling about the next couple of days of bets. So let's just keep it positive. Let me turn it over to you. Edmonton Oilers, McDavid down, Oilers down bad. Take it away.
Yeah, this is real. This is a real critical part in the season for the Edmonton Oilers, and this is obviously tough news for all GMs out there because it's been a very slow start for what seems to be for Connor McDavid standards. I mean, even with the 3 goals, 7 assists, 10-point total so far to start the season for McDavid, it seems like a slow start for him, and it's been a slow start for the Edmonton Oilers as they continue to have some troubles early on this season. 4-5-1. In the month of October. They have a game this Thursday against the Nashville Predators, but they got absolutely dominated 6-1 in that loss on Monday to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And that's really probably not even the news they wanted. The biggest news from this game is Connor McDavid leaves within the first 37 seconds. It didn't even look to seem like a very awkward fall. It just seemed like, one of those things where it's fluky, tripped on a guy's stick, goes down, and I don't know if he twisted his knee or twisted something on in his foot, but he gingerly gets up. He kind of slowly gets to the bench, and he does not return in that game. So this is obviously a critical part, like I said, for the Edmonton Oilers because they have not been getting any depth scoring whatsoever. Besides Leon Draisaitl, who's leading right now with 6 goals, 10 points. McDavid, like I said, 10 points, and actually Matthias Ekholm, who comes in at third for the Edmonton Oilers with 8 points on the season. Not getting much from the guys you brought in the summertime, Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson, not really finding the chemistry and the footing right now early on with the Edmonton Oilers. They're kind of mix and matching the power play, which, by the way, bottom 6 in the league right now, running at a 13.79%. It's a complete different story from last season where they're at the top of the leaderboard here on special teams. So losing Connor McDavid, I'm very concerned about this team right now. If he misses an extended period of time, like I said, he went back to Edmonton to get reevaluated. So we probably should go into this week, into that game on Thursday against Nashville, that he won't be there to play. And then even maybe against the Calgary Flames on Sunday that he won't participate in that game as well, depending on what happens. But it's critical right now because the Edmonton Oilers they're getting outplayed right now early on in this season.
That is a fact, and I want to throw a couple of things at you and let me know if they stick. Number one, Connor McDavid must be just a little bit banged up and tired because his back must hurt from carrying this club through the final stretches of most of that postseason. That I understand a Stanley Cup hangover, and I know that's a term that gets thrown out there because people like to talk about boozing, and your boy does as well, and it's kind of fun to say. But it really looked like this team has felt those kinds of impacts of getting so close and not being able to get the job done. And that's just a complete sidebar. There's just a lot going on with this Edmonton Oilers team. And now McDavid, I want to speculate, though, because looking at it just from a pure fantasy production point, and I did the numbers on this one, Steele, at this point, October 30th of last season, Connor McDavid had 2 goals and 7 assists through the same period of time and then really turned it on. So in terms of, it's been a bit of a disappointing start for sure. We know that this team did very similar last year to start, and they came back. They're not going to do that without 97. And this isn't a hot take or a bold one either. It just comes down to the straight main point of this that I had to say, of course, Connor McDavid owners, this could be devastating. Even if he's out 3 weeks and you've been kind of struggling, you can almost count those 3 weeks unless you get lucky and creative on the waiver wire. You're going to be in very tough to win those. So that's number one. Number two is Zach Hyman's already been struggling. We know some of the peripheral pieces having, Evan Bouchard hasn't been living up to the hype like in still time, all of that. What is this going to mean for the Hymans, Dreisaitl's, Bouchards of the world, any other guys who catch peripheral time on the power play with McDavid out? If that does happen, now it gets really concerning, of course, Oilers on the ice, but it's not just Connor McDavid owners, Steele, I don't think. It's all of those pieces that come along with it that I think I'd be starting to look at the waiver wire immediately. By the way, Monday's episode, probably going to be a spicy one if this guy is out.
Yeah, we're going to keep our finger on the pulse like you like to say over there, and keep our eyes on the news for Connor McDavid. Again, he most likely won't be in game action Thursday against the Nashville Predators, but this gives a big opportunity for those depth guys, like I was saying, Victor Arvidsson, Jeff Skinner, who have struggled early on this season. Zach Hyman, 10 games into the season right now, only has 1 point to show for it, and it's a lousy secondary assist against the 4-0 win against the Pittsburgh Penguins. He needs to start creating some space for himself. He needs to change his goal scoring ability like we've seen him do in the past. It can't be as one-dimensional as just going to the net, looking for those rebounds and battling for those pucks. He needs to start creating some space, creating those opportunities himself by using his feet and using his hands to his advantage. Like, we know that he can, but again, with if Connor McDavid's out, we're speculating for how long it will be. With him out for potentially a long time, or at least a week, and Zach Hyman not able to start getting any offensive production, right now you're getting nothing for those depth scorers. And at the same time, I said this in the preseason, I said this in the offseason, Stuart Skinner is just not something, it's not something you're seeing on a consistent basis. Is he the guy for them? Is this going to be the prime number one goaltender for all of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's prime with the Edmonton Oilers? He continues to struggle in the blue paint as well. Calvin Bickert is not someone you really want to give the reins to if things go sour and south with Stuart Skinner, and he needs to step up as well in a big way. They need to depend on him, and he needs to show some consistency, because looking at what he's done so far this year, 2-4-1, a 3.51 goals against average, and an 8.72 save percentage, that is not good enough for your number one goaltender.
Not even close. And let me just throw this out there because it's kind of an intriguing parallel to who we're going to talk about next right after the break. We'll get to the Colorado Avalanche. We'll get to big-time bets for Wednesday night, of course. I think Steele and I are going to take that look under the hood at our teams tomorrow, see how we're faring in our keeper leagues and our listener leagues. We'll have a little look at how we're doing. However, I'm looking at this upcoming schedule for the Edmonton Oilers, Steele, and I'll run that parallel about the Avalanche in a second when we go to break. They have the Nashville Predators, then a back-to-back with Calgary and New Jersey, then Vegas, then Vancouver, then Toronto and Nashville. I don't see an easy cakewalk game in any of those. All of those squads, say what you will about the Canucks and the Leafs, sure, and the Preds have been at the bottom. All of those clubs, I think, for the most part, right now are actually looking like playoff contending teams. So that's one. And number two, the Colorado Avalanche, the Edmonton Oilers, this could have been almost the Western Conference top two teams headed into this season. And right now, things are starting to look a little shaky, Steele. The wheels are coming off. However, the wheels are not going to come off on the rest of today's episode unless we let it, and we're not doing that because today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars awarded in winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Game Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us. Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. And, you know, we're switching over to the Colorado Avalanche, and pretty much in the same vein, in the same sentence and same breath. It's the same conversation with this Avalanche team that we just talked about with the Edmonton Oilers, struggling in the blue paint, maybe not as much offensive production from your blue line as much as you would like to see besides Cale Makar, obviously, and then some depth scoring that they're not really getting besides those top guys in the top 6 forward group. And I'll say this at the beginning. Okay. I'm not as concerned with the Colorado Avalanche as I am with the Edmonton Oilers right now. And Alexander Georgiev is a different story. Both teams are struggling with that in that department with their tandems. But Eustace and Noonan has actually stepped out and been a very solid, productive goaltender so far early. If I was Jared Bednar, I would continue going down the Noonan route and not giving any more leeway and you know, a lot of confidence and showing what you think Georgiev can do, and maybe kind of reining him in a little bit for Georgiev. That's number one. Number two, I look at this team right now, and they have so many injuries to some very important key pieces to their organization. And just bringing it up, like we talked about, Ross Colton, he's going to miss an extended period of time. He was seen leaving the arena with a walking boot. Long-term, it says from for Ross Colton, who's been having a tremendous season so far. He has really stepped out into the light in the absence of a lot of those guys that I wanted to talk about. I mean, you go down the list for the Colorado Avalanche. Gabriel Landeskog, obviously, he's been missing for the last 2 seasons. Jonathan Drouin has been missing since the season opener against the Vegas Golden Knights with an upper body injury. However, he has been upgraded day to day. Obviously, he's skating again. Valeri Nichushkin, he's been back in Denver since the beginning of October. He's been serving his 6-month suspension in Stage 3 of the NHL Player Assistance Program. He is eligible for return November 13th. And then, of course, you also got Arturi Lehkonen, who's week to week with a shoulder injury. So these are very key pieces to the success of this organization. They've been getting by with Mikko Rantanen, the play of Casey Middlestat, the production of Ross Colton. They lose him, and of course Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, but not a lot of consistency with their supposed number 1 goaltender Alexander Georgiev.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it, Steele, that I think this situation speaks volumes to how this game unfolds in terms of how you win games every single night. And this isn't exactly a fantasy take, but not every time. You got the best player, arguably, at the position in Nathan McKinnon, and I think it's a less of an argument, but the best player on the blue line in the game as well, and in Cale Makar, and it still won't mean much if your bottom 6 is, and no disrespect to Parker Kelly, Kiri Ranta, Steinberg, Ivan, and Chris Wagner. That bottom 6 is ragged. So when you then take the pieces away from the top 6, and I know they've still, you know what? I don't know how they've still been managing, because I just looked at that number in terms of goals scored, goals for. They still have 36 goals for. That's second in the division and third in the entire conference. So I'm not ready to give up on them either, Steele, and I appreciate that I think you said you're less concerned about the Colorado Avalanche. So I think the numbers indicate as such in terms of comparing them to the Edmonton Oilers. Fantasy-wise, this Ross Colton injury sucks because this is a guy who is really coming on. By the way, he leads the NHL in power play goals. I think he's got 5. It's 4. He leads the NHL. So he's been really, if that's the kind of guy that you had on your team to start the year, I wouldn't be surprised given the peripheral coverage because I think he's been chipping in. Yeah, he's got 28 hits as well. The power play points and the goals. This is a guy that, yeah, okay, you can hit the waiver wire and replace Ross Colton compared to Connor McDavid, but it's still another hole to fill in terms of a fantasy GM off to a good start. You brought up Eustace and Noonan. I am not exactly as confident as I think, not maybe you are. I'll let you explain that. But yeah, he's been the better goaltender, 100%. And I think you have to run with whoever is going to be the hotter hand. At the end of the day, either of these guys, though, Steele, and it's very similar to the Edmonton Oilers, and maybe that showed true going up against Bobrovsky last year. Neither of these tandems are Stanley Cup winning caliber. So that's a huge concern as well. And I expect both of these GMs somehow, they're going to have to pull the trigger on some sort of move. I don't know how that's going to work, but I don't see either of these rosters as Cup caliber winning ones.
No, they're not. And it really does have to do with the tandems in the blue paint right now. There's just no confidence. There's no confidence that I would have with any of these guys to be the guy going into the postseason. And again, when you look at across the NHL, the caliber of goaltenders right now, it's just, they're not even close to being a top 10, top 15, whatever it is right now in the National Hockey League. Going to the fantasy perspective for the Colorado Avalanche, I mean, Eustace and Noonan, he's one of those guys who's, obviously you go down the 0G strategy, you try to pick him up and stream him as much as possible. He might just be up there, rosterable across ESPN and Yahoo Fantasy. But with this Ross Colton injury is where the underlying perspective really is for me. And with Ross Colton going down for an extended period of time, Jonathan Drouin, who's going to fill that left wing position with Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen is what I'm trying to get at right now. Jonathan Drouin has been upgraded to day-to-day, but how soon is he actually going to be back in the lineup for them? Are you going to move maybe Miles Wood up there? Are you going to move Kovalenko up there to play with Rantanen and McKinnon on that top line? So these are some factors you definitely need to consider. Again, with the near returning of Nichushkin possibly, again, eligible as of November 13th. I don't expect it to be as soon as November 13th, but maybe if we're all lucky, he's back by the end of November, early December potentially. He's been skating, he's been working
Hard to
out.
say.
So I think it's definitely something to keep your eyes on. 28% rostered on ESPN, 52% rostered on Yahoo Fantasy Leagues right now. So if he's out there, I think it's definitely worthwhile to grab him while you can, stash him for the time being on the IR if you've got some open spots there. And if it doesn't hurt your roster, but I think you got to take a look into who will potentially be playing on that top line for the Colorado Avalanche.
100%, regardless of what the team does. If there is a hole on that line, you got to jump on, even by default. I don't even actually care who it is, even if it was Miles Wood. Miles Wood gets a look on that top line. I'm taking a flyer on him week to week, 100%. That's just how nasty McKinnon and Rantanen are. Speaking of which, Steele, I know we're not going to talk about them too much. How about them Vegas Golden Knights? 7-0-0 at home. Haven't conceded a single point. Maybe we'll talk about them on tomorrow's episode. Let's get to big time bets and let's wrap this bad boy up with a bow.
Yeah, they have been a spectacular team, and that's what it really hurts the most when I did my
tease to bets, by the way. Sorry.
It's a tease to bets. We're getting over to bets real quick. 6-game board on Wednesday. And that's what I was getting to. I mean, my division winners right now aren't looking good with the Oilers. Very, very much struggling to start this season. But there is some time. They got to make up some ground, hopefully get some depth scoring like we would like to see from them. But we'll get to more big-time bets after the break. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That's FanDuel Sportsbook app. Gives you everything you need to place live bets on NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out those latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episode. 6 games on the board for Wednesday night in the National Hockey League. 6 games that we can potentially make some money off of.
Yes, sir.
Flip, over to you, my friend. How has it been this week for bets?
Yeah.
And what are you looking at for Wednesday?
Little up and down this week. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm feeling it right now, Steele. Our fantasy teams, I'm excited to talk about them tomorrow. It's been much more up and down with that, but that's okay when we got as many irons in the fire as we do. We're just trying to stay consistent. First game, first pick, Flames into the Utah Yeti. Yeah, I'm staying there. Flames on the money line is my first pick here, minus 110. Not only have I thought the Utah club has overachieved so far this season, and I know their time is coming. I know there is a lot to like in that forward group, 100%. And they're scoring goals, but they're also allowing a ton of goals, Steele. And this is still a club that is going to have growing pains. The back end's a mess. Some injuries, obviously Sean Dursey going down. I know that they were dealing with, I think, Marino is out as well. That is hurting this club. They bring in, they brought in that kid whose parents had a weird kiss at the draft. Anyway, is it Maverick Lamoureux? He's going to get a look. 4-4-2 for the Utah Yeti. All I'm trying to say is this. The Calgary Flames have looked good. 5-3-1. I know that they've come down to earth a little bit with 3 straight losses. I'm going to ride with the Flames, and I'll tell you why. And this is the cherry on top. And I know this is the Arizona team, but they're very similar rosters still. 9-0-1 for the Calgary Flames in their last 10 games against Arizona/Utah. First pick of the night, Flames on the money line, minus 110.
Adding that into the parlay just because of that stat right there. Calgary Flames on the money line, absolutely loving that. I'm going back to back with the same game parlay here.
Hit me.
Looking at that last game of the night, New Jersey Devils and the Vancouver Canucks for the same game parlay. Number 1.
I'm intrigued.
Devils on the money line, minus 105. They're 8-2-0 in the last 10 games. They've put on a clinic against this Vancouver team. And so far, I've seen no turnaround from Elias Pettersson in the month of October since we've last talked about him, since we called him out. A lot of people have called him out for his play. No spectacular play from him. That's number 1. Devils money line, minus 105. They've been putting on a clinic against this Canucks organization.
Sure.
Also rocking with the over 6.5 at minus 112. 7 of the last 10 games have been over the number. You've got Quinn Hughes, you've got Luke Hughes, you've got Jack Hughes. All guys are facilitators. They all play make. They're able to set up those teammates. With the way Nico Hischier's scoring right now, he's absolutely dominating too. I expect both big performances from those guys. And my lock of the night, Jack Hughes, 2+ points in this matchup. 6 goals, 10 points in 6 games against the Vancouver Canucks. He really comes out against his brother Quinn, and he likes to show him who's the better brother in the Hughes family. So that's the lock of the night. That's the same game parlay. Devils money line over 6.5, and Jack Hughes 2+ points.
The 6.5 is getting into my parlay for sure. I might just cop out fully and take it down to 5.5 because that's just what I've been doing lately because I'm a little bit of a you-know-what. However, I like it, Steele. I especially like that over. That one's catching some of my money. Elias Pettersson, not good. $11.6 million for 1 goal. Again, I know we got to say it, but just consider it a caveat for everything we say. We know it's early, but when you get paid like one of the best in the league, we're going to treat you like one of the best in the league, and 1 goal is not good enough. So I'm with you with the real PD. Please stand up. I know you like that one. My second pick and lock of the night, I'm looking at this Tampa Bay, Colorado game very similarly to how you're looking at that Vancouver, New Jersey game. That one's going to go over the number in a hurry, in my opinion, Steele. Just looking at it from a pure, eye test standpoint. And yeah, the last time these two teams faced each other last year, it produced 9 total goals. Tampa's an offensive unit. They both have had their struggles in the defensive end, especially Colorado. I think Colorado still gets theirs for 2 or 3. Tampa's going to get at least 2 or 3. This one's going to go over the number in a hurry. So hit me with the over 6.5 in that one. That's my second pick. My final pick, and it's why I had to throw in that little Vegas Golden Knights plug. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but your boy, who you've been perhaps higher on than any player on this podcast and stood by him, Jack Eichel is looking like one of the best players in the NHL right now. Take some notes, Elias Pettersson, because for real, 3 goals and 13 assists. The Vegas Golden Knights are the top team in the league and looking deadly right now. So Eichel on the road against the LA Kings, and I had this up before. I got a little lag central going on. 5 games in his career against the LA Kings, 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. Hit me with the Jack Eichel anytime assists. He leads the NHL in assists with 13. Don't hold me down to that stat steal, but I think it's accurate. Let me just check that. Anyway, he's right there at the top of the league with 13 assists. I think someone else has 14. Hit me with Jack Eichel anytime assist as my lock of the night. I'm really, really feeling that one.
That line has been absolutely a force to be reckoned with. Mark Stone running.
Cale Makar has 14 assists. My bad, Steele.
Cale Makar, he's up there, but he doesn't lead right now. Jack Eichel, though, 13 assists. But yeah, Vegas Golden Knights, they've been putting on a clinic in the month of October. Mark Stone running back the clock. He looks great as ever. That top line, Barbashev, Eichel, and Stone, they are something special right now. And hey, that's what can happen if you're not being injured 24/7, and they've dealt with some major injuries in their time. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate it. Make sure you continue to leave the comments on the YouTube channel. Flip and I appreciate all the conversations, the dialogue, the questions you leave out there. Don't be afraid to DM us on Twitter or Instagram as well. Make sure you're following us on our Twitter and Instagram account if you can. We really do appreciate it. And once again, from both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with all of your bets tonight, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.